If you want to make a head start on your hero collection, stick around till the end of the video where I will be telling you how you can win a code to get 4,000 dust, which is enough for a single hero. Thank you to Good Luck Games for providing these codes to me for free, and let's get into the video. Hello everyone, my name is Naimiri and this is a video to help you figure out which heroes you should unlock first in Storybook Brawl. There are two types of heroes. There are some that will be unlocked automatically for you when you very first start the game, and there will be some that are locked until you buy them or craft them, whichever term you prefer, with either fairy dust or crystals. Fairy dust is the free currency that you get with the game by playing through brawls, and the better you place, the more fairy dust you get. Pretty self-explanatory. 4,000 fairy dust is needed to get a new hero, and it can take a little while to get that, but bear in mind it is a free-to-play game, and you can still play the heroes that you haven't yet unlocked if they happen to show up in your pool of selected heroes, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But for now, let's move on to gems. Now, gems are the paid currency in the game. Currently, there's no other way to get a hold of any of them. However, there is currently a $5 bundle that gives you 300 gems, which is enough for 3 different heroes, each hero being 100 gems each. And it also gives you a nice little portrait frame and some emotes as well. I highly recommend picking it up. I think it's a nice way to support this game, and it's not very expensive and you can get a head start on your hero collection, but obviously not everyone is able to do that, and that's absolutely fine. When you first start the game, you'll be given 4,000 fairy dust immediately, which is enough for one hero. So obviously it's a bit intimidating because there's a lot of choices and you don't want to make the wrong choice, which is hopefully what I'm going to help you with today. I recommend playing for a little while, honestly, before you pick up a character, just because you might find one that you really connect with and that you really like the play style of and that you have a lot of fun with, and that, you know, that might be your choice, and that's fine. You can actually play any of the heroes regardless of whether you have them unlocked or not, if they happen to show up in the correct spots in your hero pool. Let me explain. So when you start a brawl, you will see 4 different hero options. The first one is always from the free heroes. The second one can be either from free heroes or it can be from any of the other unlockable heroes that exist, whether you have them unlocked or not. And even if you don't have them unlocked, they are still playable as long as they are in this second slot. The third and fourth slots are dedicated only to unlockable heroes, and if you do not have that hero unlocked, you will be unable to pick it, but if you do have that hero unlocked, then it will show up as an option to you. So as you can see, you don't necessarily have to own all the heroes. You can try them out before unlocking them. But let's say you do indeed want to buy a character. Which one should you get first? Which ones are the best to prioritize early on? Which ones are the easier ones to play if they do get offered to you in that second slot? Hopefully I can give you some recommendations based on my personal experience, and that will help you make those kind of decisions. On to our first choice. First up is Loki. Now, Loki is actually the first character I bought with my dust when I very first started playing. Luckily, I chose well, and Loki is actually probably my favourite hero of the bunch. He's a lot of fun to play, and I really enjoy him. Loki's unique talent is that he casts a random spell every round, but he is unable to buy spells from the shop because of this. Now, the random spell that gets cast is based on your level, so it's randomly selected from the pool of spells that you would have had available to you in the shop. And when you go into a game as Loki, you will notice that instead of the spell being there on the right as it normally is, now there is nothing there. You don't get any extra minions or anything from this, so don't think that you do, it just removes it from the... So why is Loki such a good choice for beginners? Well, simply put, you don't have to worry about spells. When I first started playing, I actually kept forgetting that spells were a thing. I was so focused on the creatures in the shop and like reading everything and trying to figure out what worked well together and all this, that I completely forgot that spells were a thing a lot of the time, and I would forget to cast them. Now Loki kind of just takes that out of your hands. You don't have to worry about spells, he'll do it all for you, which allows you to focus on the important thing of reading all the different cards and figuring out which minions you want and your ordering and your placement, etc, etc. Now, I mentioned earlier that Loki is quite a strong hero, and the reason for this is primarily for his early game. Now, early game, you have a lot of spells that will give you free creatures or will give you cheaper creatures in the shop, but normally, obviously, you have to spend gold to get that to happen. However, with Loki, you get that stuff for free, which usually means that you will see Lokis with quite a full board pretty quickly. It is not uncommon for Loki to cast Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, for example, which will give you a random creature from the shop and give it +1/+1. Or he could cast Shrinking Spell, which reduces the cost of all of the creatures in your shop by 1. What this means is you can just pick up all the stuff in the shop rather than only buying 1 or 2 creatures as you normally would. As such, Loki tends to kind of coast through the early rounds just by virtue of having more stuff on his board than everyone else, and it allows him to focus on building up his triples, etc, etc. However, Loki does have a downside. The most major downside being that it's all random and you could get completely screwed. Many times I have locked something in only for Loki to roll his free roll spell and me to lose that lock because he's rolled the shop without my consent. Damn you, Loki. The other issue being that late game he struggles because he can't necessarily use on command those combat spells that could turn the tide of battle. That being said, though, overall he's still a pretty strong hero, and I would highly recommend him for new players because of how fun he is and because of the fact that you don't have to worry about spells. Ultimately, you're probably not going to be using those combat spells late game efficiently anyway if you're a super new player. It's not going to be something you're going to be worrying about. So Loki is my #1 recommendation for you as a new player. Next up is our good friend Wonderwoddle. As of the current meta, Wonderwoddle is actually the most powerful hero in a lot of people's opinions. Whether that changes with time, we don't know. I'm sure it will as the meta continues to evolve and balance changes continue to happen. But as of right now, he's incredibly powerful. But that's not really why he's on this list necessarily. The reason he's on this list is because his hero power is pretty easy to make use of, and he's pretty newcomer friendly in my opinion. Wonderwoddle's unique power is that he allows you to combine animals of level 2 and 3 with only 2 copies instead of the normal 3. Now what this means is it's much easier to get those upgraded units as Wonderwoddle and get those treasures much faster, and allows you to get a nice little head start on everybody else. The 3 blind mice are a 2-cost unit that actually give you a 4-cost treasure if you find all 3 of them. Now the nice thing about Wonderwoddle is he doesn't need all 3 of them. He only needs 2, and that's much easier to achieve. And if you can get a level 4 treasure early, that's really going to set you ahead of everybody else in a lot of cases. And this is why Wonderwoddle is considered to be exceptionally strong at the moment. Now, the reason he's on my list is purely because he just gives you a really nice early game advantage, and it's quite nice to be able to find those triples, or doubles in Wonderwoddle's case, nice and early as a new player, so you can start to experiment with some of the treasures and start to understand what it means to upgrade units and have a bit of an easier time doing that. It also kind of gives you a goal in mind, rather than having a field of units and you're not quite sure who to buy or what to get or what to spend your money on. You now kind of have an idea. You just buy animals. Go, buy more animals. At least early game, you have a plan of attack, which is really helpful for new players, because I know when I started, I kind of struggled with knowing which units should I be buying, but with Wonderwoddle, he kind of tells you what units to buy to start off with. Now, obviously, once you hit level 4, his hero power stops being as useful, but it's still a nice little early game boost, and that will usually give you the momentum you need to keep going through the rest of the game and hopefully hit a nice high rank during that game. So as he is, not only is he strong and gives you a good chance at getting a good placement, but he's also pretty newcomer friendly, he's nice and simple, and he allows you to collect those juicy treasures much easier. Next up we have Ivella. Ivella's probably my second favourite hero after Loki. I have a lot of fun playing her, but I also really recommend her to new players. Ivella's power is that she gives all of her evil characters +1/+1 this brawl whenever an animal dies. Now, the reason this is actually a really effective hero power and why Ivella is actually quite a strong hero in the current meta is because you have a lot of animals that are also evil. You also have a lot of animals that summon other animals when they die, so you get double buffs on things. If you stack this with a vulture, for example, which also gains buffs every time an animal dies, you have yourself a pretty strong comp. It also works quite well with Evil Queen, although not quite as strong, I think, as the vulture play, but if you can get an Evil Queen nice and early, it can be very strong for you throughout the mid-game. Now, the reason I actually recommend Ivella for new players is because, a bit like Waddle, but honestly even more so, she gives you a game plan. In her hero power, it tells you exactly what you should be doing. You should be buying animals, preferably evil animals wherever possible, and preferably ones that summon other animals when they die, for example the cat or the sheep in wolf's clothing. And then what you do is you pop those in the front and you let them buff all your evil stuff in the back. And off you go. You're ready to brawl, and you should be able to get a decent amount of success just on her hero power alone, because it is quite strong in the early to mid game. You might struggle a bit end game, but you'll be absolutely fine to get a decent place, hopefully, with Ivella. And at least you'll know what kind of comp you're going for. The next hero we're going to mention might surprise some people, and that's the Snow Angel. Now, the Snow Angel is not the strongest hero in the current meta, she's one of the weaker ones, but I do think that she's very newcomer friendly, and I actually have had half decent success in using her. Snow Angel's hero power is that for every 3 good characters that you buy, you get a random good character. What it doesn't tell you on the card is that this character will be at your level or below, so you won't get a crazy 6 drop when you're level 1 or anything like that. Now, the reason I recommend her to new players is because, again, much like our previous choices, she kind of gives you a direction to go in. She tells you, hey, you should probably be buying good people because you get rewarded for that. Is she the strongest? No. But it does give you an idea of which way to go, and unlike Waddle or Ivella, she has a much broader range of characters to choose from that she gets buffs from. So, for example, the pool of heroes that are good is much larger than the pool of heroes that are evil and animals, for example, if you're looking at Ivella, or just animals in general. So she gives you a little bit more freedom to experiment with different types of builds, things like royalty, things like good animals, to just kind of start to flesh out your playstyle a little bit and figure out what cards you like, with a bit more freedom than some of the other choices that we've mentioned. Now we're going to finish off with a character that I do not suggest you buy early on if you're a new player, and that is Peter Pants. Now, he's a lot of fun to play, but he does require quite a lot of knowledge of the game and very specific strategies to actually make him viable as a hero. Peter Pants' whole thing is that he starts at level 3 and he never levels up from there. So you only have access to level 2 and 3 heroes and spells unless you use very particular methods, like the spell True Love's Kiss, which will turn one of your minions into a level higher, and you can keep doing this to get a higher level minion. Now, we're not going to go too deep into the strategy that you can use with Pan, because there's already guides out there for that, and I probably will do like a hero guide for each hero at some point. But suffice to say, he's not a simple one to play, and therefore I just cannot recommend him to new players. Even though he is quite fun, he is quite difficult to feel powerful with. So there you have it. Those are some of my recommendations for the heroes that I think you should pick up first with your well-earned dust. Now, obviously, these are just my thoughts and opinions. Maybe you play a hero and you really enjoy them and you decide to pick them up first. That's absolutely fantastic. Overall, the main goal is that you should be enjoying the game, and whoever you decide to play, I hope that you do well in your brawls. And now we're at the part of the video where I tell you how you can win that 4,000 dust that I mentioned at the beginning. All you have to do is comment down below your favourite hero in Storybook Brawl. The first 3 people that comment on this video will earn themselves a code for 4,000 fairy dust. Thank you again to Good Luck Games for providing these codes to me for free. I hope whoever wins spends their dust wisely. There will also be more chances to earn codes in future videos and also on my Twitch channel, which is linked down below in the description. So feel free to follow that if you want to know when I go live with Storybook Brawl content. All of my social media links will be down in the description, including my Twitch where I stream Storybook Brawl amongst other variety content. I hope you all have fun brawling, and I will see you again with another video very soon. Bye bye everybody!